There's been a change at the top of one of the largest farm lobby groups in the country. Fiona Simpson successfully challenged the incumbent, Charles Armstrong, for the presidency of the New South Wales Farmers Association. A victory that, as much as anything, underscored just how significant the stoush over mining prime agricultural land has become. Farmers are worried that their livelihoods and Australia's long-term food production is being jeopardised by the ever-widening search for resources. Paul Lockyer reports from Fiona Simpson's power base, the Liverpool Plains, in northwestern New South Wales.
The winter grain crop is popping up through the rich black soil of the Liverpool Plains. Come spring, this valley will be bursting with food as preparations are made for harvest. On a nearby ridge, other plans are underway.
The second pit will start just down the bottom of this hill and take this hillside out and go down to 150 metres off the edge of the black soil plains.
Joe Clayton is the project director of a huge open-cut mine proposed by Shenhua Watermark, a Chinese government-controlled mining company. It's hoped that the mine in the New South Wales northwest, near the village of Breeza, will yield 200 million tonnes of coal over 30 years. Shenhua paid $300 million to the New South Wales government for an exploration licence covering almost 200 square kilometres of farmland and forest.
The reality of the situation is that there's a state asset under the ground that the state owns and will want to develop to help improve the state for everybody.
Or fighting the whole thing in total.
Absolutely.
There shouldn't be a mine on this sort of land.
Yeah, absolutely.
Landholders on the Liverpool Plains have been fighting mining projects in this region for 6 years. They blockaded a property to prevent BHP drillers from exploring below the farmland. But BHP still has plans for mining in the area, and the farmers are determined to try to block them and to block Shenhua.
Well, the battle here is enormous. What we are standing in here is the foodlands of Australia. The foodlands of Australia and, in fact, the foodlands of the world.
From her Liverpool Plains farm, Fiona Simpson carried the fight against the resources sector to many other rural communities. It struck a chord. Last week, she was elected president of the powerful New South Wales Farmers Association.
Food security across the world is going to be one of our biggest issues. Yet by the same token, we see exploration licences and mining licences being granted over some of our most valuable agricultural lands.
Shenhua's decision to buy the farmland it intends to mine has brought the company more unwanted attention, triggering a debate over foreign investment controls.
I think the community is suddenly finding that there is a large amount of foreign investment that is actually, to all intents and purposes, slipping under the radar.
How much have you paid and how many people have you bought property from?
We've purchased 14,700 hectares and we've paid $167 million for that.
Shenhua has bought a total of 43 properties, offering well above market value for the land.
I would suspect that most of them have got more money than they thought they would ever dream possible for their places.
When Shenhua presented its offer to Chris Roworth, he was quick to accept. He had been juggling off-farm work to make ends meet.
With a young family and a bit of ambition, really the decision was made for us.
But he was targeted by some mining protesters as a sellout.
We got a little bit of stick for selling, but I think any reasonable person put in the same position would come up with the same decision. And look, you live with your own decisions, and I don't have any trouble sleeping.
Chris Roworth has leased the farm back from Shenhua and will try to work around the mining while using most of the windfall from the sale of his property to expand his operations on country elsewhere. The Clift family, descendants of the first settlers of the Liverpool Plains, are determined to hold on to their farmland in the Shenhua mining zone. Michael Clift's property stretches from the black soil plains into the ridges that will be mined.
I won't be going anywhere in a hurry, that's for sure. You don't get quality land like this anywhere else. So, I just love farming and this is where I'll be staying.
Shenhua insists that its land purchases are only for the life of its mining operation.
All the land we've purchased has come under the Foreign Investment Review Board rules for mining purposes only. So we can only own the land for mining purposes. When the mine is completed, we have to sell the land.
I think a lot of people now are seeing purchases such as the Shenhua purchase, for example, where they are going to be mining our coal. They are basically going to be sterilising our agricultural resource for 2 or 3 generations and exporting that coal as to not necessarily serving much of a national interest.
In nearby Gunnedah, there's mixed feelings about the new mining boom.
On one hand, it's been hugely beneficial economically, the creation of jobs, the new businesses or the new industry that has come as a result.
It's provided a much-needed boost to a town that had begun to question whether it had a future. Gunnedah began to decline a decade ago with the closure of the abattoir and 3 coal mines, just as drought descended on the region. Coal mining has long contributed to the economy of the area, but Gunnedah still sees itself as an agricultural centre, and the Mayor, Adam Marshall, worries about the impact that the new exploration areas will have on the farmers.
Government releasing exploration licences in very, very sensitive areas where agriculture is very strong, where food production is the mainstay. And we're seeing now a lot of conflict between mining interests and agricultural interests that we've never really seen in this area.
On the Liverpool Plains, it's as much a fight about water resources as it is about coal mining. There are major concerns about how the proposed mining operations could affect the precious supplies of underground water that grow the food.
This is about whether we are prepared to compromise water resources and prime agricultural land for extractive industries. It's as simple as that. It's not very hard to imagine what it's going to do here.
Tim Duddy and others who led the fight against BHP's exploration attempts won agreement that a study should be conducted into the groundwater supplies before any mining could be considered. But news that Shenhua has decided to drill 3 deep test holes on a block it has bought on the Liverpool Plains has triggered a new alarm.
It's like putting a hole beneath your bathtub, basically. Drilling a hole with a drill through your bathtub just to have a look at the floor underneath.
Neighbour Andrew Purshouse suspects that Shenhua is searching for coal as it carries out its water sampling, and he fears that drilling through the main aquifer could disturb and contaminate the system.
Anything to do with this aquifer, I don't think it's worth the risk because you can't put it back together.
One will go in and test the aquifer, and in the fractured rock of the basement material, the Permian, and then in the fresh Permian material. And it's purely for water monitoring purposes.
No coal sampling at all?
No.
But Andrew Purshouse is unconvinced, and he plans to form a blockade to stop the drilling rig.
I want future generations to know that farmers in the Liverpool Plains took a stand on this, and it has to stop.
Landholders believe that unless they stop mining now, the coal reserves under the Liverpool Plains will inevitably be targeted.
Over time, the community will come to understand that we are serious about what we say, and we are concerned about the aquifers and the environment in this area.
But all the assurances have been greeted with a high degree of scepticism on the Liverpool Plains. There's an atmosphere of distrust, and it's spreading to many other rural areas where mining companies are widening their search for resources. Concerns that are being fuelled by the controversial tapping of coal seam gas reserves.
The concern about coal seam gas is the water and the effects on the water, the effects on the water table of changing the pressures underneath the surface of the earth, and also, of course, what are you going to do with all that water that they pump up to extract the gas and those salts, the heavy salts and metals and things in that water.
Never before have there been such deep tensions between the agricultural and resources sectors.
Well, I think in parts of New South Wales and Queensland we are heading very quickly towards an ignition point.
Tony Windsor, the federal independent MP who was raised on the Liverpool Plains, believes state governments have mishandled the resources sector, and he's introducing legislation in the next session of Parliament to give the Commonwealth greater powers to intervene.
To overrule the states in terms of some of these developments. So I guess that's a veiled threat in a sense. The states could have fixed this some years ago.
Shenhua has already made a huge investment in these hills. It's not about to fold and leave. The farmers are gearing up for a long battle.
100 years down the track, will we just be a quarry, or will we still have some decent farmland to produce food for the people of Australia?
And next week on Landline, we'll bring you a full report on the fiery Senate inquiry into the coal seam gas industry on Queensland's Darling Downs.